Hello, welcome to another Taekwondo lesson. Today I'm going to show you how to practice three-step sparring. In Taekwondo we have several pre-arranged sparring exercises, such as three-step sparring, two-step sparring and one-step sparring. Today I'll show you three-step sparring. And it's the first of the pre-arranged sparring that a beginner student learns, and it's usually taught to a yellow belt, 8th cup grade and above. The rules for three-step sparring are as follows. Both players face each other in attention stance and bow. The attacker will measure the distance and then steps back into a walking stance low block position while the defender stands in parallel ready stance. The attacker will shout "Yup" as a start signal and the defender does the same. And then they start. The attacker does 3 of the same attacks and the defender 3 of the same blocks, which is appropriate for that attack, followed by a counter attack. And then they switch roles. And they continue this exercise with the defender and attacker switching roles alternately. And when they finish, they return to attention stance and bow to each other. Three-step sparring should be practiced with somebody the same height as you to ensure that the length of your stances are the same. Otherwise, you'll either drift apart or get closer and closer together depending on who's doing the attacking or defending. You can still practice with somebody slightly taller or shorter than you, but then you'll have to adjust the stances. The taller person, for example, doing an L stance, whilst the shorter person doing a walking stance. It's important to be at the right distance from the start, because if you're too close, then you won't be able to block effectively. And if you're too far away, you won't be able to reach the target unless you go into an incorrect posture. So it's important for the attacker to measure before starting the exercise. But it depends on which technique you're doing. So you've got to know the distance for whatever technique you're doing. So if it's a middle punch, you need to overlap your foot halfway past your partner's foot. That would be the correct distance. Because if I was toe to toe, my punch will just reach in, but I need to focus inside. So I've got to get deeper in. And if he's doing a middle block with the inner forearm, you can see that this is the correct distance. But if he was using the knife hand to do a side block, that block will be too far in. So the distance should be further away, so you overlap just a quarter of the foot. If I'm doing a high punch and he's doing a high block, you can see that he won't be able to block. So the distance needs to be closer, so I need to overlap 1 foot, toes to heel. But if he's using the knife hand, that's going to get closer in, so the distance should be overlapping by half a foot distance. Okay? Now, measuring up is not just about placing your front foot in the right place. If I measure, say I'm too close, and I measure halfway past and just go back, you can see I'm still too close. The point is you place your front foot in the right position and then adjust your walking stance. So once you have a correct walking stance, then you're at the correct distance, because when I step into walking stance, my foot will go back exactly where it was measured. So let's practice a particular sequence. So I'll be the attacker and I'm going to perform a walking stance middle punch, and the defender will do an inner forearm middle block also in walking stance. So I need to measure by overlapping halfway, adjust my rear foot, then adopt a low block position. Then I shout the ready signal, "Yup!" and the defender does the same. And then we can start. Notice that I've stepped exactly where I measured on the outside, overlapping halfway. But my next step has to be on the inside, otherwise my stance will be too wide. Had I been doing L stance, which is narrower, I'll be measuring on the inside and always stepping on the inside. But as this is walking stance, it will be outside, inside, and on the last one, outside again. And then he does a counter attack. And then we return to ready stance. Notice the attacker goes backwards and the defender goes forward. And this is because if you did it the other way, you'll end up using too much space. So this way is more efficient for space. Then he becomes the attacker. He measures. do the counter-attack, don't rush and punch straight away. You need to relax, use full sine wave. Okay? So relax, up, down. Another thing is you must step and punch at the same time, block and step at the same time. So if we go back one step, so when he does the punch, he's going to step and punch at the same time. I'm going to step and block at the same time, and we both move together. So from here, we block at the same time as the punch. So our sine wave will move together. So here are examples of 5 different sequences of 3-step sparring.